Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have been out for a few months now, and in my usual fashion, I finished my copy of Pokemon Violet weeks after everyone else. And so, to put my English degree to good use, I've compiled my thoughts about the game for this video. I do want to keep the tone of this video positive because even though there were a lot of bugs and glitches in this title, I do think that it did do a lot of things right for the direction of the mainline games. I think it's only appropriate to start off with what brings so much love to this franchise. They're Pocket Monsters! To start off with the starters, I think that all three of the starters look really cute in their base forms, but when they get to their final evolution, I can't really say the same. I love that the secondary typing for each starter is effective against the starter that the original typing is good against, so that means that by the end, no one starter really outscales the other one in terms of typing. I think that the shiny versions are okay. I like the pink Fuecoco, and I do think that the eye color plus accessory change for Sprigatito is nice and satisfying enough. I do think the Quaxly line leaves a lot to be desired. I can't really explain it that great, but the colors being so pale just kind of makes him look like a washed up version of his original self. For the new Gen 9 Pokemon, I really enjoyed a lot of the new designs. They seem to focus a lot on the cute new Pokemon for this region. I love the pun Pokemon, like Tandemaus and Mousehold, Fido and Dachsbun, and Smoliv. Gen 9 also had just some really good designs overall. I like Tinkaton's line, who also has lore connected to Corviknight, which I think is such a nice touch to show that there was a lot of effort put into that. I think Citadel is adorable, and Graveyard is such a good boy. When it comes to the shiny hunting in this game, I really do wish that there was some kind of indicator in the overworld to help point out shinies, because some of them in this gen are really rough to see. I think some of the good shinies to point out is the Smoliv line, the Tinkatuff line, and Cloth. And some of the bad shinies that are really hard to see because there's lacking any real difference is the Tandemaus line, the Paladin Tauros, and the Wattrel line. So Pokemon have always had some odd ways of evolving for generations now, but I still think that the walking 1,000 steps with them without them going back on their Pokeball is ridiculous, especially with how slow they are. Being able to load in moves at any point in the game is such a blessing. This saves so much time if you want to rebuild a Pokemon, or if you want to try out a new move but realize that you don't really like that move and you want your old move back. This makes the process of changing out moves so fast and easy. Players have also realized a nice tactic of, if you're out in the wild and you run out of a move you need, simply swap it for another move, and then put it back, and bam! Full PP on the move again, and this is just a nice time save if you're away from any Pokestops. As someone who really loathes the idea of starting a new Pokemon game for the sole reason of I'll have to go through a tutorial, I wish one day there will be an option to skip the basic tutorial in Pokemon games. I can understand going against your rival for the first battle, I wouldn't mind keeping that in, but instead of things like, oh wow, you know how to use damaging moves, they say something that gives you a glance into their personality. We did see a bit with Nimona, but I just wish it went a little further. It can take you up to hours to really start your open world journey in Scarlet and Violet. The tutorial section went on for way too long for my taste. I feel like the school could have been a lot closer and it would have been just fine. I really love what they did with the gym leaders in these games. By having them have unique personalities that expand outside of just being the town's gym leader, they felt a lot more fleshed out than in previous games, where you would just battle them and then you wouldn't really think of them again. I also love that they added a unique Pokemon outside of the normal typing for the gym leader, and then they would terrestrialize to get that typing for them. I liked how even though all three paths broke down to basically just a bunch of Pokemon battles, 2 out of 3 of them gave emotion-inducing storylines that really push you to want to continue them. It really made you feel like you were having an impact with the storylines. For Nimona's path in Victory Road, I think that Nimona is a really good rival. She already starts out as this competent challenger level trainer who is encouraging you to reach her level because she so desperately wants someone who can actually put up a challenge against her. I do think hers is the most lacking in terms of emotion, but since this was the Victory Road path, I think it's just fine because this was the most low stakes path. It was just there for the ties to the traditional Pokemon games. In Penny's Starfell path, even though the story was pretty predictable when it came to who is Cassiopeia, I did really enjoy what the path did. It broke down the grunt battles into utilizing the let's go auto battling. Even though there was a small thing that could get mundane after a while, I enjoyed not having to go through tedious fights of dozens of grunts that had the same 2 or 3 Pokemon. Having a plotline showing an adult actively changing their views of a group of delinquents is an amazing thing. That fact that he takes the time to actually listen to these kids instead of just brushing off their problems is a rare thing to see in a narrative. For Arven's Titan Road path, I think this one was definitely the one that I got the most emotionally invested in. Arven is my pick for the character with the best development. He starts off as a somewhat hot-headed boy who I didn't care much for, but by the end, he was this broken kid with a sad childhood. Having an absent parent, his only friend was his Pokemon, so of course when Mabosstiff became sick, he became stressed. Once it was revealed that Arven is hunting down these mystic herbs to help Mabosstiff, I really started to feel for him. This is the only path that I felt made me tear up a bit. These Titan fights were the most simple part of the overall story, but the story is what made me want to push forward. I wanted to see Mabosstiff get better. This path also had the best rewards as Miraidon got improvements like swimming, climbing, and flying, which made traversing the lands a lot more fast and fun. For the Area Zero story, I think that even though the storyline was pretty obvious, this part was great! Getting to explore a new area was nice. This little hidden section was something that I was looking forward to from the very beginning of the game. As soon as we entered Area Zero, it's obvious that the professor isn't the one talking to us. They ignore us talking to them, they only address the player character. The eerie feeling that sets in while you make your way down to Area Zero really sets up for the left-hand turn that the story makes once you find the professor. I do feel like they didn't focus much on the fact that the real professor died for Miraidon and left an AI in its place. The battle that shows off the future Pokemon was super cool, and the rematch between the 2 Miraidons that give ours a chance at redemption was a really good choice. I can honestly say I think 90% of the budget went into this section. This overall narrative between the professor and his son set it up to continue the sad story on Arven's end, only for the AI to pull the, "Oh, I have your father's memories, he always loved you," before disappearing forever. I do kind of wish that they could have just left the bad dad narrative because he's framed throughout the whole game as this work-crazed mad scientist, so it would have fit. When it comes to Scarlet and Violet, I was hoping that there would be more differences between the 2 versions. There was really only the few version exclusive Pokemon and basically which skin of a professor you got because they both have the exact same dialogue. The customization in this game kind of threw me for a loop. There's great customization when you start the game to have your character looking pretty unique, but I was kind of sad that there was such a limitation on customizing when it comes to clothing. I think that the Terra raid battles are a nice change up and they bring more option to battles. Being able to find a Pokemon that can change its typing, whether it be removing a secondary typing or becoming a different typing altogether, can lead to really interesting matches between friends. I think the event battles are nice, but with them getting harder and harder, they'll probably either become unplayable for more casual players or forcing teams to play the same rotation of like 6 Pokemon. I do think that having the first 6-star Terra raid events less than a month after the game's launch was dumb. The game released mid-November, and to have the first limited event start on December 1st, with the knowledge that you will not have to only complete the main storyline, but also the post-game, was only going to cause most of the players to either miss the event altogether or have to speedrun the game and not be able to enjoy the story that was put into it. You can hear complaints about the shops being copy and paste selected windows from everyone, so I'm going to skip over that part. I don't hate the style of the shops. Yes, fully interactive ones would have been cool, but it's not a make or break thing for me. One thing I do wish could have been better was the feeling that the cities gave off. Pokemon Black and White had this one bustling city. It was always popping into my mind when thinking about busy cities and games. So seeing only a few people in each city was kind of lackluster. I can imagine this limit on people was due to the difference in creating programming of 2D versus 3D characters, but hey, I'm not a game developer, so I'm just throwing out guesses. I was thrilled when I saw Pokestops in the game's previews. I love how quickly I could heal my Pokemon and buy Pokeballs. being able to just run up to a Poké Center in the middle of an area has proven super helpful. Being forced to go into a city and into a building wasn't the worst thing in the world, but when I was grinding out levels or shiny hunting and needed to go heal up a Pokemon just to get my moves back, it felt really unwanted. I do wish that the gyms were a bit more distinct from each other. Each gym does have its own challenge, but looking at the buildings, they're just copy and paste lookalikes. The very least that they could have done to help differentiate each building would be to have the color on the gym represent the special typing instead of just all being red. Personally, I'm fine with only 400 Pokemon. As someone who wanted to complete a living dex, having to collect over 1,000 would have been too daunting of a task and I would have thrown the idea out altogether. Plus, I'm not sure how that many Pokemon would have been properly populated in this world. The open world is large, but with over 1,000 Pokemon, some of who are located in very specific environments, I'm not sure how they could all live organically together. I really enjoy the change-up of the Pokedex in this game. I think seeing the book get shelved is way more satisfying than a lot of animations in past games. I like how the game incentivizes you to really catch them all by giving you rewards for every 10 entries you collect. I think this helps push you just to catch one more, just evolve one more. If you're really close, you have that next reward in mind. With all of that being said, I think that these games at their core are good. Taking away the issues with the glitches, they've not seemed to deter people from enjoying what the game has to offer. This is the first game that has multiple storylines. It has emotion built into each of them that all feel different. The gym leaders have purpose outside of just being people you go and fight and never think about again. The game allows you to take on whichever path you want in the order that you decide. I think that even though the game might not be the best looking or performing game, I do think that the game is moving in the right direction when it comes to in-game content, and I hope that it's a building block to make even better Pokemon games in the future. Well, until next time!